Welcome to Awake to Oneness Radio. I am Caroline Chang, your host. The mission of Awake to Oneness Radio is to inspire the world to awaken to the universal truth of oneness. Science is now teaching us that all life is energy, and that energy is interconnected and interdependent. In essence, that energy is one thing. And ancient wisdom and spirituality has been teaching the truth of oneness for eons, and science is just now catching up. But it's not even new science. We're talking about the science of quantum physics, which is over 100 years old. Quantum physics speaks about the unified field and also quantum entanglement, which those are big scientific words, but all that means is that everything is connected. There is no separation. Separation is an illusion. So what you do to another person, you're literally doing to another aspect of yourself. And when mankind awakens to the universal truth of oneness, there will be peace on earth. Today's show topic is the second wave with Kerri Hummingbird. Welcome, Kerri, to Awake to Oneness Radio.
Thank you, Caroline. I'm really glad to be here today.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to have you here today. Will you please share with our listeners your journey to awakening? And you can go as far back and take as long as you want, because there's no time limit on my show.
Awesome. Well, let's see where to begin. My journey of awakening really started when I started realizing that I was living and doing my best and trying my hardest, and it still wasn't good enough for the people that I was in relationship with.
Okay.
And it was sort of like trying to fix myself to be acceptable to them wasn't really working. And it was leading me down a path of feeling like worse and worse and worse and worse and worse about myself.
Mm-hmm.
And not trusting myself, you know, that the choices that I was making were really going to be the best ones for me.
Right.
So I would go to psychotherapy sessions and I would ask for advice, and I would be like, okay, what's wrong with me because people are upset about my choices or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
you know, for decades. And then eventually I got to this point where it was like I got to the end of the rope. My higher guidance sent me a vision of like a ship's, not like at the end of the rope.
Mm-hmm.
And when you tie it off on a dock, you know, this big ship, and it just went poof, done.
Okay.
You're done with that.
Okay.
That's the end of the rope.
Okay. How long ago was that?
8 years ago.
8 years ago. Okay.
That was 2011, you know.
Okay.
And I saw the end of the rope and I said, that's the end of the rope. And I had this instant inner knowing that that was the end of one part of my life and the beginning of another part. But I didn't know any more than that. I just knew that that's the end of that rope. So I needed to go.
Okay.
So when I left, I wasn't conscious about anything other than I just knew that it was the right choice. And I was still sort of in my patterns and in my suffering and in my pain and all this stuff and the stories and everything inside of me. And so I was like, well, I'm just going to be bad then. You know, that was what I told myself.
That's funny.
If I can't fix myself, I'll just go ahead and be bad, you know. So
okay, that's funny. Okay.
So that's what I did at the time. For about 6 months, I just sort of did whatever I ate, like chocolate cake and pizza, and drank a bunch of wine, and just pretty much did whatever I wanted to for like 6 months.
Okay.
And then something started to awaken in me because I met a friend who did yoga.
Okay.
And I never done yoga.
Okay.
So I was like, all right, I'll try this. And then the trying of that led to the trying of more things. And as I started trying these new things, I started realizing life could be so much more gentle. Like there's kindness inside of it. There's like this way of being gentle with yourself that could get a better result, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You could actually enjoy yourself.
Right.
And so I started this at that moment. What I realize now in retrospect is I was starting the path of discovering who I was.
Yes.
Rather than trying to change who I was to suit other people.
Exactly. You
know, and to trust myself.
Mm-hmm.
And from the vantage point of a lot of inner work for the
Mm-hmm.
past 8-9 years, a lot of inner work, what I
Yes,
can say is that when I say trust myself, what I'm really saying is trust my soul,
exactly. Exactly.
the
Yes.
journey that my soul
Mm-hmm.
planned for me so I
Yes.
could have an experience
Yes. Very
that
true.
leads me into the second wave,
Mm-hmm.
because about last year when I got this download, I needed to start writing this book called The Second Wave. I said, okay, well, I don't even know what that is. What do you mean? Because I didn't remember this, so my soul was reawakening me like,
Yes.
yes, now's the time.
Yes.
And so I said, okay, I don't know what this is, so I just trust your soul self that you will guide through me what is needed
Yes.
to be shared. So I allowed the book to channel through me.
Mm-hmm.
It's powerful wisdom
Yes.
that is wisdom I earned on my journey through my
Mm-hmm.
soul's guidance.
Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Very interesting. I kind of recently realized, I don't know about recently, it's weird because I connect with what you're saying about following that inner guidance because from a very young age, I'd say 4 or 5 years old, I was following my inner guidance and didn't know that I was, and because I wasn't aware of inner guidance at 4 or 5 years old, but it would get me kind of in trouble.
Yes, me
Like,
too.
yeah, because it's like my parents, like, I was like, they were like, what's wrong with you? Why can't you be more like your brother? I would hear that. And now, that I think that's the worst thing for a parent to say to a child. Be more like another sibling. Each child is unique. We're not clones of your siblings. But so I didn't know that I should be following my inner guidance at such a young age, but I always did. And then it wasn't until I woken to the universal truth of oneness, which was in 2007 for me, that was my real awakening. I mean, I was searching for 30 years. And then in 2007, watching what the bleep was my awakening. And then I'm like, oh, okay, even though it was getting me in trouble, me following my inner guidance, it was what I was supposed to be doing. So,
Exactly. Because it's my invitation that it's a good possibility you're part of the second wave.
mm-hmm.
So what I learned was that this whole time with my earth amnesia, I didn't have to remember anything. My soul was guiding me to do my mission that I came here to do as part of the second wave the whole time. And
Yes.
yeah, a lot of the things I was doing to follow my inner guidance were really pissing people off in my life.
Yes, yes,
And still
exactly.
do, and still do, by the way.
Yes,
But
yes.
now I have awareness that my role, one of my roles is to be part of the second wave and to be a leader in the second wave. And part of the second wave is a dismantling of old human conditions and paradigms that have led to continued suffering on the planet,
Mm-hmm.
and to bring us to another space of self accountability, self actualization, self responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to get there, we've got to clean up a big mess that was made intentionally, a mess
Yes.
that was made here for learning.
Yes.
But it's time to clear it now. And if you want
Exactly.
to clear the mess, you have to see the mess. And if you see the mess, you get upset about the mess. And if you get upset about the mess, you can feel the upset and then you can start to heal. And so
Yes.
all of that's part of the process. And so rather than resisting, causing friction by provoking, seeing, and witnessing of things that need cleaning up,
Right.
just accept your role. And so that's what I've had to do, is accept my role as a
Yes.
disruptor to create peace.
Yes. 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 No,
Isn't it ironic? It's like a disruptor to create peace.
yes, yes. Well, that's true. I mean, we're living in some amazing time. 2020 is actually here. And this is an amazing time we're living in because the world is, you have to break down. See, people don't understand, you have to break down the old to build up the new. And that we're in that breakdown spot right now where everything is shaking up and people are uncomfortable, but you have to go. It's like birthing pains. It's like giving birth, and you have to go through that shake up, breakdown to emerge to the new. So yes.
Yeah, and you have to be able to be with the discomfort in order to feel it so that you can heal it, because feeling it is the only way to heal it. You got to feel it to heal it. And we have a lot of people on the planet right now that have got a lot of crusty hearts.
Yes.
That's just my way of talking about it. But it feels like, when you got a lot of crust around your heart, then things are stopped up. It's not flowing. It's like stagnant. And it gets like even more kind of like putrid and feeling bad. And then you numb out at some point. And it's like the feeling part numbs out because you can't selectively feel. So if you're not willing to feel the pain, then you're not going to be able to feel the joy. Like you got to be able to feel the whole range and accept it all as part of the experience. And so that's the second wave is about that and so much more, because we are the sum total of our ancestry living in our body. So our bones hold all the wisdom from our ancestors in the densest part of us.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we want to be free, we've got to bring along not only ourselves, but our ancestors into forgiveness. And they might not have been able to get to forgiveness during their lifetime.
Exactly.
They might not have gotten to, because a big, forgiveness is the biggest teaching there is.
Yes.
So we're in the middle of that teaching right now. We're in a huge teaching on forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
So, as a second wave person, many of us decided we would be willing to serve as healers for our ancestral lineage, which means coming into an embodiment in an ancestral lineage that had a lot of turmoil and suffering, that was unforgiven, and to come into it, embody in it, fully immerse in all the stuff, the bones and the stuff that was unforgiven, immerse in it, experience it directly in our own lives. So many of us have had like super traumatic lifetimes, experience it in our own bodies, and then decide to heal it and forgive it right now, in the now. And that forgives it not only for us, but for the ancestors that couldn't figure out how to forgive before. Which sets us free.
Very true. Very true. It's so amazing, because what you're saying, I have been focusing on for the past few weeks. And I've been hearing the term cellular cleansing.
Yes.
And the cellular cleansing is not just, it's not just this lifetime, it's this lifetime, it's all of your lifetimes, and it's your ancestry. So exactly what you're saying, and this terminology of cellular cleansing really just came to me in the past few weeks. And I realized that I am, and all of us on the planet are going through this cellular cleansing, and it's necessary. We have to go through this cellular cleansing from all of our life, from this life, from all of our lives, from ancestral lifetimes. All of that has to be cleansed so we can emerge into the higher consciousness where Gaia, Mother Earth, wants to take us to a higher level. And we can't get to that higher level without going through this cleansing process.
The cleansing process is very challenging no matter how you go about it. And Mother Earth has given us everything we need in order to do the cleansing in a fast, efficient way that's less painful. And a lot of people are waking up to some of those tools and practices, one of them being ayahuasca and ayahuasca ceremony. Because it's a very powerful plant from the jungle that actually goes through your consciousness, helps you see all the places you're hiding from forgiveness. If you know what I mean. Like you thought you forgave it, but you really didn't. You were holding it back in this old little locker back here.
Exactly. I thought I was done with, like I said, the last few months. It's like stuff's been coming up. And I'm like, wait a second. I thought I was done with that long ago. Yes, no, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Because
Yes.
it's like the way that I witness in you, and this is just my reflection about the way you've talked about yourself,
Yes.
is that you've been dedicated to this path of inquiry within yourself and healing and forgiveness within yourself for 30 years using
Yes.
modalities, right? That
Yes.
came to you that were effective.
Yes.
And for some people that is like a path that they can put their arms around and do it. And for other people, they need a little assistance,
Yes.
with some kind of medicine or something to help them let it
Yes.
go.
Yes.
So if you look at it right now out in the world, there's like the coronavirus, right? And everyone's very
Yes.
afraid about this.
Right.
But if you look at this virus from a soul perspective, this is a cleansing for people that can't let it go, because
Mm-hmm.
it's going into the lungs. The lungs hold grief.
Mm-hmm.
It's going in through it's purging through the colon, which also holds on to old content. All the stuff you can't forgive is like in your colon. You just can't let it go.
Right.
I know, because I've walked this journey where I had trouble letting it go, and my colon started talking to me like, it's
Yes.
hurting. You need to
Yes.
let it go. You need to
Yes.
forgive it.
Yes.
The lungs hold on, and then you can't breathe,
Mm-hmm.
because you're holding on to grief from yourself and your ancestors. And
Yes.
so this virus is actually an agent of change to
Mm-hmm.
force the letting go for people that cannot seem to let go using the modalities that you let go of,
Mm-hmm.
your consciousness, for example.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
everybody's going to get assistance to let it go.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And if you want to let it go more consciously, then you need to walk a spiritual path
Yes.
with discipline,
Yes. Yes.
like you have been demonstrating.
Yes. I encourage everyone to go within. I always say, I tapped into my inner being, and my inner being was listening, and that was my, really the beginning of my awakened journey, because I was doing it before when I was younger, but not knowing why, and then and feeling bad about it. It's like, because people were not happy with me, and I was like, but I gotta, and even though I was a little kid and people were not happy with me, my inner self was saying, but I gotta be me. So, but I couldn't say that as a young child because I get in big trouble. But that's what I was feeling. But then when I consciously became aware that, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I always tell people, go within, spend time, however people like to meditate. I love to meditate by just sitting, clearing my mind, focusing on my breath, and listening to some high frequency vibration in the background. And that will help me stay focused on my breath. And I try to do that 25, 30 minutes a day. And then I do it, even if I'm just walking, so whatever a person can do to go within in nature, go and sit under a tree. Mm-hmm. But,
And also I believe it's like, for me, because I'm aware that I could say I've forgiven something, but then it's sort of like just spiritual saran wrap, because I just sort of like wrapped something up and was like, yeah, it's not there anymore because I covered it up.
yes.
And so because I'm aware that I have done that in my life, let's say I've forgiven it, but then really haven't forgiven it,
Yes.
then I bring myself to face potential triggers. Like, a lot of people might avoid a potential trigger to avoid getting upset.
Right.
But I bring myself into it closer
Yes.
to kind of test myself. Like,
Yes.
am I neutral with the situation that used to trigger me, or do I still have a reaction?
Exactly.
Because if I still have a reaction, I'm not done with it yet.
Exactly.
I'm still chewing on it somewhere in my intestines.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Very true. Very true. Yes.
So I think that the role here is to trust that, trust the process, like go inside and tune in, right? Like you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
and trust the process, and whatever comes into your field to help you let go,
Yes.
to say yes to that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're in a big purge. We're
Yes.
purging everything right now. Any way you can purge the content and forgive it and understand it and put it in a right relationship and claim the wisdom and then release the rest is a
Yes.
good thing.
Yes. And I love what you just said, is how you can tell if you're really done with it is by your reaction to it, by your reaction to that trigger. If that trigger doesn't get you to react to it, and you're just like all neutral to it. And I love what they say in the Buddhists say the middle way. You're like, okay, that's there. Oh,
You're just
well.
being you. You're just
Yeah.
being yourself. Okay, I
It's
see
like, and
that.
it doesn't trigger any emotional upset in you, then you're truly done with it. But when we still get those triggers that still have us get really emotional, those are the ones we still need to work on. And they will keep appearing until we have cleared them. Because
Yeah, and they'll just show up with different people, different situations, in any way. Spirit's constantly devising little situations and scenarios so that you'll face the thing that you haven't forgiven yet in yourself. You'll learn the lesson you haven't learned yet. And
yes.
it's really not about the other person. That's the biggest thing I had to realize, because I'm like, well, they're definitely doing it, for a long time. I was like, they're doing this. I'm not doing this. They're doing this.
Right. It's their fault, not my
They're
fault.
doing
It's their
this.
fault.
I'm trying to be nice, and that
Yes.
was also a deflection.
Mhm.
It was a deflection because actually that wasn't true. I was sort of holding the victim corner and being like, well, they're doing this to me, and so they're bad people or something, or they
Yes.
haven't learned their lessons. Or then later on, even after I published the second wave, there were
Mhm.
moments when I caught myself in, oh, they're younger souls than me, so they don't, and so all of this opportunity, any kind of opportunity for arrogance or superiority or any of that, is all ego. So it's like, so
Yes.
it's so many layers to the ego.
Yes.
It's an exploration to dismantle the system. And one of the reasons why I work with plant medicine is because it helps me to see it more clearly, because there's so many layers and there's so many deceptions that it's confusing sometimes to know the true truth, like the
Right.
absolute truth,
Yes. Yes.
and then to operate from that space. And
Yes.
I see the importance, like people like you and I that are
Yes.
messengers.
Yes.
We have to be very, very clean with our carrying of the message,
Yes.
so that it's not like being claimed or owned by a part of us that isn't truly where
Right.
it's not coming from,
Right.
right? It
It's
comes from
fine.
source.
Right. From source. Exactly. Exactly. And exactly what you said. And I just experienced this yesterday. It's so funny. I kept meeting different individuals along my path yesterday. And what I would have to remind myself, okay, everybody is operating from their highest level of awareness, from
Available
their
at this time.
right at this time. So whoever and yesterday was coming back in contact one after the other, and I kept having to say, okay, no judgment in my mind, no judgment. They are operating at their highest level of awareness. So, and we're all divine souls, and we're each operating at our highest level of awareness. So I had to go around yesterday just saying that to myself, reminding myself, don't judge this person. This person is operating at their highest level of awareness. Come to the next person. Okay, don't judge this person. This person is operating. I did that 4 times yesterday. And I kept having to remind myself, okay, okay, even today, like I had said to you, I'm in the Northeast in the Poconos, and it's very rare. Usually this time of the year, we have 3 to 4 feet of snow on the ground. We are truly, I've lived here 28 years, and this is the first year into February. There's no snow on the ground, and it feels like spring. It's so warm that the fog is so thick you can't see but 2 or 3 feet in front of you. So I was driving to the store earlier today, and first of all, when I drive, I always have on my headlights. But when it's fog like this, a person, honestly, you can't see but 2 or 3 feet in front of you. If a person doesn't have on their headlights, you can't see them. Half the cars out there today did not have on their headlight. And there was this one guy who was actually in such a hurry. He didn't have on his headlight. He's actually passing someone. He's coming in opposite direction of me, but he's actually trying to pass somebody. I could barely see him. Luckily, we're not in the same lane because he's coming this way, I'm going that way. But I didn't see him until he was like 2 feet in front of me, and he zoomed by with no headlights on. I'm like, nobody can even see you, dude. And then I had to say to myself, okay, he's operating at his highest
His
level
highest available at this
awareness.
time. And his highest resiliency, I want to
Yes.
say, because we are entering a time of challenge, because we're eliminating the old hooks that kept our egoic consciousness in place as the driving force on the planet. Removing a lot of those hooks and attachments.
Yes.
And we're shaking it up so that people can have the crack through which the soul can enter and take control of their vessel, right? So this is an insight I got. It's just so cool, is that the it's almost like the human vessel has a autopilot program, right? So it can function and take care of itself and take care of you while you're going through until you're ready to assume command, right? As a soul.
Yes.
And then the way you assume command as a soul is that something, you get so tested and so challenged and so out of control and so scared and so, powerless feeling that you finally get the operating system to surrender and admit that it is not in control.
Yes.
And then the soul can step into the body fully and take command and take over, like override, and can take manual control. And then you've got souls walking in bodies on the earth. And now you have a human being, because the being part is the soul.
Yes.
So if you're worried that people are not being human beings, they're not yet being human beings because they haven't made the transition to lead by their soul. So a human being is one that's led by the soul.
Exactly.
So see how much sense that all makes now?
That made so much. It's so you hit the nail right on the head. And actually, everything you're talking about, I have just been experiencing myself personally. It's like, yes, okay. I mean, I agree. It's
because that's a human doing. The human on the autopilot. So this is so funny, Caroline.
Yeah.
You know how fascinated a lot of people on the planet are right now about virtual artificial intelligence?
Yes.
That's because they're fascinated with their operating system.
Right. Exactly.
But it's like they're obsessed with the human vessel actually is artificial intelligence.
Exactly. It's like
it's an avatar.
Yes. Yeah. This body, I always say this body is our avatar.
It's an avatar.
It's a vehicle. It's a vehicle for us to move around in this dimension. And it's so, but I'm not my body. I have a car, okay? I'm not my car, okay? And I have a body. I'm not my body. And you're absolutely right. Our ego, our human conscious, our human brain,
our artificial intelligence, our brain.
Our artificial intelligence wants to be in the driver's seat.
But it wants to create itself. It wants to create its own artificial intelligence.
Yes, it's like no. Take that ego. It's a useful tool. The mind, the ego, it's a useful tool. But move it over to the passenger seat. Let the higher self. Let your soul be in the driver's seat. And when it is a scary position, because when you put your ego in the passenger seat and you let your soul be in the driver's seat, you have nowhere. You're sitting in the passenger seat. You have no idea where you're going. It's like
you don't.
That's very scary.
It can be, but see, that's where the soul has to do a really good job with its ego.
Yes.
So we have a lot of younger souls on the planet at this time that are just starting to experiment with how to get their egos to come along and not be scared, right? So it is like a journey of the soul as well. It's soul school.
Yes.
So a lot of souls haven't figured out how to be kind and loving and gentle and supportive, and also loving might mean like provoking the ego into a place where it surrenders. That is also part of love, but you got to do it with safety. So you're not going to get anywhere if the ego is terrified. Like it's just not going to happen. Yeah. It's going to clamp down and try to control everything.
Right, but what you said, you get it to. I know this has happened with me in the past few weeks. You get it to a point where you just throw up your hands and you say, I surrender, universe. Okay, do what you will. And I've done that a couple of times the past few weeks. I just had to Surrender. And when you do that surrendering, what you're doing is you're not giving up. You're allowing spirit to work through you. And that's the only time, because when you're all in your ego, in your mind, and you're trying to do, and things are not working out, then you get to a point where I just give up. And that and Spirit said, thank you. Now that you give up.
Thank you. Now I can take control.
Now I can take control and take you where I want you to go.
Well, you know, what I've learned in these ceremonies is that that voice is always there. And I actually just had this beautiful experience with it where it's like I can speak from both spaces now. So I will speak from soul space at this moment and just say that it felt really good to finally have Kerri relax and trust me. I've been here the whole time.
Yes.
And so it was like she finally heard me, like I'm right here.
Yes.
And then I'll speak from Kerri.
Yes.
And we'll just say, I'm grateful that you stayed with me. You didn't leave.
Right.
Because it took me a long time to trust.
Exactly. It does. Like I said, we're so, and you know what? That comes from society too. Society is telling us, you got to do, you know, and we're in this moment. Okay, I got to be productive. I got to do. But you're not being. And for me, I understand it's first I have to sit with soul. I have to open my ears to what soul is saying to me, my heart, my ears and everything, and then follow that guidance from soul. And then, but it's allowing, because when I'm just doing and pushing against the flow, the now moment, you know, you mentioned the now, because life happens only in this now moment. So when you're in this now moment, when you let life, let spirit, let the divine, let universe work through you, then magic will happen, you know, and you just, it's just a wonderful feeling.
I feel like the audience is like needing a concrete example right now.
Okay.
So I have one. Okay. So, well, this interview is an example. Number one, because we didn't plan any of it out, right? And so it's just happening, and the magic is happening.
Yes.
I had a presentation I was giving, the final closing presentation for a weekend retreat for all these thought leaders, you know, over 100 thought leaders that I really, you know, admire, and, you know.
Yes.
And they gave me the spot of closing, which is kind of a big deal.
Yes. Kudos.
So speaking from Kerri is a little nervous about this, like, I'm going to go in there. So I had written all of the speech out onto these little note cards, and like writing the whole thing out and word for word to be sure I spoke everything consciously. Yes. And then that morning I got woken up an hour early on my alarm clock. Yes. Even though when I looked at the alarm, it was set for an hour later, it still went off early.
Okay.
Because my soul was like, hey,
it's time to get up.
We need to have a conversation. So then I had this conversation with my soul, and my soul was like, Kerri, that speech you wrote out, we're not doing that. I'm like, what are we going to do?
Right.
And you know, my soul told me?
What?
Meet me in the now, because that's where I am.
So true.
I did that, and it was beautiful. It was powerful. It was profound. My soul presence came through my whole body and took over, and the whole room was engaged. Everybody was engaged because it was soul speaking.
Yes.
And when soul is speaking, everybody listens.
Yes.
So this is really like the transition that we each get to bring ourselves to, is to allow soul to speak.
Exactly. Yes. And I like I said, I launched this show 5 years ago. It was Spirit that woke me up in the middle of the night to just do it. So at that time, I never even heard of the word podcast, but Spirit said, do an internet radio show. Spirit gave me the title, but since the first show, I've done about 200 shows now. I've lost count, but every show, Spirit said, just in the now, just, you know, just go with the now. And the now has always been perfect. So it's just
the now is always perfect.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Very true. Very, very true.
And so this is where we're stepping into, Caroline, is that
Yes.
we were talking about how each person is a drop of the whole divine in a unique
Yes.
configuration.
Yes.
So you could think of this whole thing as a symphony that's happening. There's a symphony occurring, and the conductor is the great spirit, God, source, creator, universe, whatever your word is.
Yes.
And so if we want to be creating beautiful music, we got to follow the conductor.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
each one of us needs to trust that our unique bubble of consciousness that holds everything that is and is a unique expression of it,
yes,
is needed for this orchestral symphonic piece
yes,
that is coming into play now.
exactly. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because people think, oh, I'm just little old me. There's no such thing as little old me. Each piece is so needed, for we are so interconnected and needed. Without each other, there can be no whole. There is no whole without, every tiny piece is equally important to the whole. So we think, and that's the, society teaches us to think, oh, we're, that we're so tiny, but we're so much bigger than what we are, because we're so much more than these bodies. These bodies is just a vehicle to get around, and in this dimension. But, once the body's gone, you're still you're still here. You're not gone, and you're much bigger. So you're much more expansive. So I want people never to think, oh, little old me, what can I do? Never think that, because you are equally important as anyone on the planet. So,
and your journey is unique. And,
yes,
your thumbprint is proof of that. We each have a unique thumbprint on our hands.
yes, yes.
So Spirit puts it right on our hands so we don't forget, oh, it's unique thumbprint. But
Yes,
like, we forget the bigger message is
yes,
that this is like a thumbprint suit that you slide into for this
yes,
incarnation,
right,
and it's got all of the ancestry of that particular body.
yes,
It's got all of the life lessons that are designed for this life experience to learn. So
exactly.
it's like the soul's curriculum imprinted in the physical.
Yes,
So yeah, you can't escape it because you're in it.
yes,
And that's
yes,
why you'll do the work, because it's uncomfortable inside there. So you'll
yes,
do the work because it's, pain makes you
yes,
do, it makes you
yes,
act.
yes, 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 yes,
You can't escape it. You're in it.
yes,
So some people try to escape it by floating outside the body a little bit and just,
yes,
but not getting all the way in. But you got to get all the way in to have the full experience.
And that's, we chose to have that experience. I think that I try to impress upon my audience that what we're going through, it's not a punishment. It's not, nobody's saying, oh, you've been bad, so I'm putting you on earth. That's not, no.
It's the opposite. You were masterful enough to be selected for this experience.
Exactly. And each of us as a soul, our higher self, said, yes, I want to do this. I want to go down there. I want to help humanity awaken. I want to do this. So we all said yes, and we were excited to come into these spacesuits and live out this experience. We wanted to. So yes, it is.
And it's way more fun when you surrender to your soul and let your soul lead the way, actually.
Yes,
Like, there's so much more love that you
yes,
could feel when you go on this. But you got to, there's some things that people need to move through. And this is part of the collective moving and understanding
yes,
of consciousness.
yes,
There's some misunderstandings that happened along the way that, were intentional to have a certain lesson.
yes,
But we got to move through those now. And,
yes,
so you cannot learn, let's say, if we are now on the path of learning self-mastery and self-actualization, the primary word being self,
yes,
then you can no longer use a conduit of another person to teach you what you need to know, because it's your self-actualization that you're working on, which is
yes.
why you've got to move out of this idea that you could sit in church once a week and learn from somebody. That's
Mhm.
not going to work anymore. That is no
Yes,
longer the paradigm. And
Exactly.
it's also no longer the paradigm that somebody's going to save you. Like
Right.
first of all, there's no saving. There's nothing to save from.
Exactly.
There's just learning. And so, Jesus is a fabulous teacher, will continue to be a fabulous teacher on this plane of existence in
Yes.
right relationship,
Yes.
which
Yes.
is
Yes.
that you are actually the self that's actualizing yourself. And he's simply a guide to point
Yes.
you in a good direction,
Exactly. I believe
period.
Jesus was very awake to who he was as a divine being. When he said, I and my Father are one, he didn't say, just me, nobody
Just
else.
me and the rest of you
He
people
just
are
me.
screwed.
Oh,
That's why I have to save your asses.
yeah, no, no. He did not say any of that.
He didn't say that.
I know. He said, I and my Father are one, meaning we're all one with the Father. He was just trying, he was awake. He knew who he was. It was 2,000 years ago. And then
He was doing his best. And
yeah, he was doing his best. He was doing
I
his
forgive
best.
him. I had Caroline, to be honest, I had to work on that because some of my ancestry had a little beef with Jesus, about like
Okay.
the result of what happened here on earth, which is
Yes.
sort of like everybody thinking it's like not their responsibility and they don't have to actually do the work themselves and they just get saved and they just go apologize in church, but then
Right.
not actually take the steps to change on the inside. And
Right.
so I was carrying some beef around that. So this weekend in my ceremony, in the place of spirit and space and consciousness and in accessing, I said, Jesus, I got to pick a beef. I have to just say, like, I disagree with this.
Yeah.
And there was a moment of silence, and then I heard Jesus say, mea culpa. It's like, okay,
Okay. Yes. Yes.
this is forgiveness.
Yes.
It's like Jesus was doing his best. We are all doing our best.
Yes.
All of our ancestors have always done their best.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
we need to forgive the
Right.
past so we can
Right.
be
Right.
clear of it today and
Right.
bring new earth into being.
Exactly. And Jesus, though, he was so misunderstood.
So misunderstood.
So misunderstood.
So,
Because all he was saying is that we are all one with God. What was his, I love,
he's
it
like a
was,
hippie.
yes. And he was like, love your neighbor as yourself.
As yourself.
And he said that because he knew your neighbor was
Yourself.
So he was just he was all about the oneness. He was all about unconditional love. But he was just man took his teachings and made
And
it.
just totally distorted it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
That's why he was like, mea culpa, I did my best.
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you're a
Yeah.
teacher. You come down to earth and all you're doing is your best. Like,
Yes.
okay,
Yes.
I'm going to try to teach. But,
Yes.
this has been, this is a huge accomplishment, I want to say.
Yes.
Thousands of years of human ancestry doing their best, walking the steps,
Yes.
walking the walk, doing their best every moment, every lifetime
Yes.
to together in a cumulative effect
Exactly.
raise human consciousness to the point where a soul can embody fully.
Yes. Yes.
And drive the vessel and
Yes.
step into soul alignment. That's pretty huge.
Yes, yes, yes. And that's why we're living in such amazing time. And that's why we chose to come here at this particular time in history, because humanity is going through a consciousness shift. We are actually raising our vibration. More and more people around the world are awakening one by one. And it doesn't take everybody on the planet, 7 billion people, to awaken for the entire collective to awaken. It's a very small percentage of, and we've already passed that. We've already passed what they call the tipping point, where humanity is awakening because enough of us on the planet are awake. So it's like,
yeah, and it's going to keep going. So that's why you've got to trust yourself.
Yes.
Trust yourself. If you've, each one of you out there that's got some inkling of what we're talking about, and you've got a knowing inside of you, like, yeah, I had that realization. Oh, I'm so glad I just heard that. Oh, that makes it more real for me. Like, do whatever you have to do to make it more real for yourself when you have these realizations, so that it becomes your truth. Because what you're really doing is eroding away the control of the autopilot program. And you're bringing in the soul,
Yes.
And it is a process. It takes time and it takes consistent effort, and you can't force it because there'll be recoil. So it's just really more about loving your egoic self into releasing and relaxing and coming into a full embodiment with your soul self.
Mm-hmm.
Because from soul self, that's where all the brilliance is.
Yes. And
Because soul is connected to all that is.
exactly. And you know, the one of the things I do as a trick or a tip is staying present, fully present in the now. Because the ego doesn't know what to do with the now. You know, so when you
That's why he wants to fill it up with stuff, which is why everyone's so busy,
yes,
Caroline.
yes, yes. So when you're really in this now moment and appreciating living in this now, because I say I know every now moment there's a blessing. There's a blessing, there's something to be thankful for in every now moment. And all you have to do when you have that awareness, look for that blessing. You know, it's just like, oh, it's you know, even if the fog is, I love the fog in the sense because it's telling me, wow, for the first time in 28 years, we're having an early spring in the Poconos. Okay, so there's something beautiful in every now moment. And when you know that and you look for that beauty and you say thankful, you say thank you, universe, thank you, God, thank you, source, thank you, higher self, thank you for this now moment. And then the ego's like, okay, I don't know what to do with that. So
You got to
you
pull up
know,
all your anchors. You know, the
yes,
ego puts a
yes,
lot of anchors down, you know,
yes, yes,
because it's trying to fix reality so
yes,
that it knows what's going to happen. So
yes,
you got to pull all the anchors up from history, you know,
yes.
all of them, all your judgments, all your stories. Oh, stories especially. Ooh, those are really powerful.
Oh yeah,
So, you know, so it's tricky as a messenger, isn't it, Caroline? Because
yes.
like as a messenger, we really are here to illustrate through example.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes we have to share a story in order to illustrate through example a shift.
Exactly,
And
exactly.
then we've got to be very masterful to erase that story almost as soon as we're sharing it
Yes, yes,
because
yes,
we don't
yes,
want to recreate it, right?
yes,
So
yes, yes, yes,
it's a real art, you know, to be a
yes.
messenger.
Yes, 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 and and it's wonderful when you have awaken. And I forget, I think it's in Plato's time. I forget where the phrase "know thyself" comes from, but that self awareness. But that is so when you know who you are and you're demonstrating it, you're walking your truth. You're living your truth and you know your purpose. You know, okay, this is what I'm here for. And this is what I'm going to do. It's just it's the best definition of freedom. You know, that's true freedom is living, knowing who you are, living your truth, walking your truth, and demonstrating to the world your truth and shining your light. That is amazing.
It
Yes,
is, and we're
yes,
here to do that right now, which
yes,
means we really need to trust ourselves.
yes,
And so it's okay. You know, if you want to make an omelet, the first thing you got to do is crack some eggs.
exactly. Hmm.
If you try to keep the egg inside the eggshell, you'll never get the omelet.
You're never gonna have an omelet that way.
So
Yes,
don't be afraid of cracking some eggs.
yes, yes,
You
yes.
know, you don't have to intentionally
Right,
rudely, you know, so this isn't talking about the ego deciding that somebody needs to wake up.
right,
This is not that.
right.
This is allowing your soul to direct you. And if your soul calls you forward, like my soul gave me a message, the end of
Hmm.
the rope, right? It didn't come from my mind or my ego. It came from my soul, and the inner knowing welled up.
Yes,
Here's the end of the rope, Kerri.
yes.
This is the action to take. And was it terrifying to take? Absolutely. I was in a partnership for 20 years, and
Hmm.
I had to decide I could go fend for myself. I could go, you know, work, and I would be okay, and I would have a place to live, and everything in the family would sort itself out with our two children, you know, and I
Right,
had to have faith that as I stepped out and did as I knew I
right,
needed, is
right,
knowing rather than thinking.
right, right.
I
Yes,
may I know I need to do it. I don't know how it's gonna. I don't. The thinking mind is like, oh, how this is gonna happen.
exactly,
The soul
exactly.
knows, and so
Those.
you do the thing, then
Yes,
you don't worry about the fallout. And believe me, there's been a lot of fallout as
yes,
I've stepped out on this path, and I've done these
yes,
interviews, and I've written the
yes.
books, and I've
Right.
taught, and
Yes,
I've openly communicated about all these things.
Yes.
Been a lot of fallout for people that are in my family of origin, my father's
Yes.
children, the father of my children,
Right.
and I still hold steady.
Yes.
I
Yes.
know this is the path.
Exactly.
And everyone is getting their lessons, and it's not up to me to make sure they get them.
Right. No, no, no.
And
Yes.
it's not up to me to save them.
Nope. Nope.
It's only up to me to tune into myself, my inner authority, and do as instructed in
Yes.
any moment,
Yes.
and to release fear around consequences and, oh, what's going to, and so-and-so's going to be mad at me or
Yes. Yes. Yes.
whatever. There's a bigger picture. I only have my piece.
Yes.
So I would just do this part
Yes.
and trust that everything that's needed will happen.
Yes.
And eventually there will be peace eventually.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's not up to me to say when or how.
Yes, honestly, I do believe, and when because I always say the goal, the mission of Awake to Oneness Radio is to spread the message of oneness, so there can be world peace. And I say that to people, and people look at me like I have two heads. It's like, really? And I even said that to a friend recently, a couple of days ago. It's like, never gonna happen. I'm like, I said, are you saying you don't want world peace to happen? She's like, no, I'm not saying I don't want it. Never gonna happen. It's like, okay, because you're saying that, you mean it's like what? And it's true. Science has proven that we are so powerful that if you say you can, you can. If you say you can't, you can't. So I know that we can achieve world peace. So I guess maybe I'll experience it. Well, you won't, but I didn't say it like that.
Well, here's a handy phrase for things that a person thinks is impossible.
Right.
That has really helped me out quite a bit with what you're talking about, because our words are powerful and they do create and manifest.
Yes.
The more stronger we have a conviction on something, the stronger it is in the energy.
Mm-hmm.
So of our own lives, which affects the other bubbles that are touching our bubble. So if we really want to be mindful, then what we could say is, up until now, I didn't believe that world peace was possible, to acknowledge the fear, right?
Right.
And I'm in the process of discovering how world peace is possible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm in the process of discovering how. I am in the process. So you're going to always be in the process of it.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, you're going to be in the process of anything.
Exactly. Yes. But so I get so many people give me this mindset that it's impossible, that world peace is impossible. And I'm like, really, do you want to be in that mindset? Do you not want to experience world peace? Do you not know how powerful your intentions are? And the wonderful thing I know is their intentions don't affect my intentions. Like I said, I know that we are living in a multiverse. This is also science. Everything I believe in is backed up scientifically. Science it has a mini worlds theories. So you experience what you believe in and put your intentions into. So my intention is to live in a world where there is peace. So because of that, I am creating, slowly but surely, creating that world. So another person who has this, not, I guess, intention, but this mindset, impossible, okay, maybe that person will not experience world peace. But I know I'm a powerful creator. And with my intentions, I create my reality. Like you said, this is a virtual reality.
It is. And it has multiple layers to the reality and different group consciousnesses. And so I can speak to this in a different way from the plant medicine. What I've realized is that anybody who's taken ayahuasca, we have an immediate recognition of each other, that there's a common bond. When I don't even know the person, but I'll look at their eyes and I'll be like, I think you've worked with the medicine before.
Okay.
And then I started to prove that. So there's also that same thing is happening in all layers of consciousness, wherever you're at. So if you've woken up to a certain degree, you'll probably experience this phenomenon where you can tell people who are also woke to your certain level of wokeness.
Yes.
And then you can also tell people who aren't. Like, you have a vantage point now that's different than you used to have.
Right. Right. Right.
So the person you're speaking to that says, "Oh, it's impossible," he's not at the vantage point that you're at right now. He could get
Exactly.
there, but he's not there yet.
Exactly.
And it's really up to his soul to choose how to guide him to the vantage point. And his soul choosing how to guide him to the vantage point might very well include the conversation he just had with you.
Yes. That could be,
So
yes, planting the seed.
planting the seed.
Yes.
Yeah, and how many seeds did you need planted before you woke up, right? So we all need a whole lot of seeds. I know I went to like 20 years of weekly psychotherapy sessions, so I'm pretty sure there was a lot of seeds being planted in there that I was not harvesting.
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
so planning, and I do feel like that. I do feel, even I've got that message from Spirit, is that, yeah, your job is to plant, to just spread the seeds wherever you can spread them. And I find myself always having those conversations, and I will have them to the degree where I think that person will at least pick up a seed or two.
I'm just laughing at myself, Caroline.
Yes.
I'm laughing at myself because I'm thinking about myself a few years ago. Because I got the same message about spreading seeds. And I'm thinking about the way I was a few years ago, where I would spread the seeds, and then I would like go back and be like, "Do you need some water? How about some sunlight? That seed is not sprouting yet." Like, come on. Yeah. And then I would like dig it up and look at it. No, it still doesn't have any roots yet. Dang. I'd be like, "Stupid seed." And then like judging the seed, like going back and trying to force that seed to grow.
No, that's not gonna
and that doesn't work.
That doesn't work. Yes.
I could attest to that. It doesn't work.
Well, you know what? You just reminded me. Isn't so? I just listened to 2 nights ago. I know you've heard of Wayne Dyer.
Yes.
Yes. He was sharing a story about when he was young, and he was like about 3 or 4 years old, and he watched his parents or aunt or uncle or somebody plant a tomato plant, and then he saw it start to sprout. So he got down on the ground. He's like, "I want you to grow. So he yanks it up off the ground. He's like, "Okay." He's trying to force the plant to grow, and he, as a kid, he yanks it up off the ground. Okay, that's done for that. So he's saying, yeah, you can't. All you can do is spread the seed, and then it'll blossom in perfect divine timing. But that all we can do is spread the seed. We can just be seed spreaders.
Along the lines of that, in the Second Wave book, I actually had a section contributed by Jennifer Huff, who's a good friend of mine. Mm-hmm. She talks about the science behind all of this stuff.
Yes.
And she said, basically, just like plants give off photosynthesis, like they give off light, they are light and they emit light.
Yes.
We are light and we emit light.
Yes.
And so whatever lessons that we have each incorporated into our own bodies, into our own energetic fields, like whatever wisdom we've accumulated and whatever consciousness we've been able to raise ourselves to, is being emanated from our field as light to anyone in our surroundings. So when you want to, let's say, raise the consciousness of someone in your life who you really love,
right,
a more amenable way of doing it potentially is to just be in their presence without really saying a whole lot, but just feeling love and vibrating love and just kind of like, shooting the shit, so to speak.
Yes. So
that, they're not confronted by your ideas.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly
all that.
That's exactly what I was kind of trying to say. Is like I kind of listen and trying to feel around. Now this person I was having a conversation with the other day, we go way back, and I can say stuff to him, even though he won't agree with it, but I can say stuff to him. But like people I'm just getting to know, I listen to where they're at before I speak. So I know how much to share and how much not to share, even like yesterday with all the people I was interacting with, which just like, okay, they're not that awake, but it's okay. And not being awake is not a judgment.
No.
I know that they're a divine being creating their own reality for their higher. We can't judge that higher soul, that soul's purpose. That soul
We don't
has a
know what they're
purpose.
here to learn, you know, like
Exactly.
this is soul school.
Yes.
So we're all here to learn, you know, it's a one-room
Yes.
classroom with all ages of souls inside of it.
Yes.
Although I did get the message the other day that we're about to have the adult swim. You know how you go to
Mm,
the pool, the community pool, and
yes.
there's like the kids swim and they have free reign over the pool, and then
Right.
there's like the adult swim and the kids have to get out. You know,
Yes.
like
Yes.
we are about to have the adult swim, and that's kind of why there's like some
Yes.
exit points, because
Yes.
the work that we're about to do on the planet
Yes.
requires more self-mastery
Mm,
and more resilience and discipline and practice
yes.
than maybe somebody who's a younger soul might feel
Mm,
capable of at this time, right? They
exactly.
might not really be ready for that level of challenge.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
they have an exit point that's pretty easy, like they get the
Right.
coronavirus, or you know, they get
Yes.
an accident, or you know,
Right.
the
Right. Right.
soul coordinates all kinds of things
Exactly.
to, you know, without undue stress, release a
Exactly.
soul from the incarnated experience.
Exactly. Exactly. Very true. And I believe in the multiverse that there are souls that are just like I don't know if you ever heard of the terminology 3D and 5D. And I
Yes.
believe there are souls that are going to be, are the younger souls. They're more than happy to just stay in the 3D and have some more 3D experiences. And that's no judgment. That's perfectly fine because we're all divine souls. There's no real time. Time is just in this linear environment. So in the truth of the matter, there's no time, and that we're all divine souls, and we're still, you know, in spirit. Most of us, anyway. Only a small part of us comes down into this incarnation. So they're all fine, and many of them are going to say, "I'm not ready for 5D. You know, I need a
Yeah, they're
lot
not
of
gonna, and they're
growing
going to
yet."
stay behind. And that's,
Yes,
see, this is where the two earths are dividing.
yes, exactly,
So, you know,
exactly.
like, so if you guys have become aware of that, those of you on the audience who became aware of this feeling like there's two different realities happening concurrently,
Yes,
that's correct. There are, it's like the earths are dividing now. And
mm-hmm.
there'll be one that's just sort of like, okay, continue along the old path because
Yes,
you're not done with those lessons. But
right.
the new earth is where we're going to be moving into self-actualization and the lessons around self-actualization, which means we are going to be dealing with personal accountability with the things you're doing in your life that affect the planet and affect other people and affect yourself. Like
Yes,
there'll be more instant karma. It's not really karma, but you know, like that
right.
idea of like instant
Yes, yes,
lessons. Like
yes,
you just
yes,
said that and now you're experiencing it, to pull
yes.
in the reins on the self mastery.
Yes, yes, exactly, exactly. And from my understanding, is this is the year 2020. The whole 20th decade of the 20s will be that the two worlds splitting farther and farther apart. And so you're going to actually, not right now, it's like 3D, 5D, and we're all interacting together. 3D person over here, 5D, and we're physically or dimensionally in 5D, you know, and then we still come in contact with people who are dimensionally 3D. But that's going to get farther and farther apart in this decade, and especially 2020. I hear just from my spiritual understanding that the end of 2020 is a big decision. Either it's like you got to make a decision. Where do you want to go? Do you want to stay here or you want to go there? You know, it's like, because it's not going to always be the two of us, you know, butting heads
Yeah,
against.
because the tension between the two worlds gets to be so too strong, and that's what I've been noticing in my younger son, who
Yes,
does, he's a bridge between the worlds right now. The tension between those two worlds is too strong
yes,
for one person to be the center point of those, to bridge that. It's too much to ask.
yes, yes.
So basically, you know, this is one of the reasons why I felt this and knew this in my mother's heart that this was happening. And
Mm-hmm.
it's one of the reasons I was doing my best to bring forgiveness, to encourage a sense of forgiveness, to encourage a sense of release of the past, and to encourage these other, you know, other members of my biological family to release the past and to forgive it, to
Right,
reduce the tension on my son.
right, right, right. Mm-hmm.
And as a soul, he has chosen this incarnation,
Yes.
and he has chosen to bridge in this way.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's choosing now his path,
Mm-hmm.
and it's his choice to make.
Yes.
So
Yes.
what I can do is make it as easy for him as possible by
Mm-hmm.
having as much neutrality as I can
Yes.
about the conditions
Right.
that he's given himself for his self-mastery.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
just love him through the process and do
Exactly.
the best I can.
Exactly. Yes.
So it's really, yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. Well, from our higher self, and our higher self knows all of our lifetimes, knows why we came. From our higher self perspective, every challenge we go through was planned for us to go through, so it is definitely okay. And so he definitely, chose this path. And yes, all we can do is basically love. We can guide, we can love, but we have to let people live their path, live their chosen path. Yes.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah,
I know what I want to ask you, because you
yeah.
mentioned it a couple of times, the ayahuasca. Now,
Oh,
I've
yeah.
heard of ayahuasca, and I know what it is, and I've never had an experience with it. Share more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, similar to you, I'd been doing a lot of personal introspection work for almost all of my lifetime, either through the psychotherapy, and then after that through my spiritual path and my spiritual training. I did energy medicine. I'm certified in by the Four Winds Light Body School. So I did a lot of really powerful work
Uh-huh.
spiritually.
Yes.
Then I got into a situation where I was able to work with ayahuasca,
Mm-hmm.
and that blew my doors off.
Mm.
So let's just say what it's taught me is that
Okay.
Mother Earth has her own medicine
Yes.
for us, for our consciousness.
Yes.
And ayahuasca is a plant of awakening to soul consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So what it does is it exposes um, the it exposes the layers of egoic consciousness that are within you,
Okay.
so that you can see the patterns, like the thought tunnels that your ego leads you through. Like, you can
Mm-hmm.
see all the little thought tunnels. You become aware of how you're holding your energy. You can become aware of imprinting, from your early childhood. You become aware of a lot of things in your consciousness. It sort of like slows it down and breaks it down, so that you see it happening as it's happening. And then because you cultivate that awareness with it being so slow, you can
Mm-hmm.
now make a whole new choice around it, and it's a permanent choice because you're in a space of your brain that's sort of like the God part of your brain
Right.
that can make those choices, your soul
Mm-hmm.
self.
Right.
So it puts you in a space where your soul self has much more ability to reprogram
Mm-hmm.
your vessel and your consciousness for greater good.
Right. Okay.
And it also is a really powerful plant for eliminating what you don't need.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people talk about an ayahuasca, you'll puke. Well,
Okay.
that's because you're purging out of your body what does not serve your consciousness anymore. And
Okay.
it's the most expeditious way to get rid of it is to throw it
Okay.
up.
Yes. Yes.
It gets it out.
Yes.
And or you blow your nose, or you
Mm-hmm.
cry, or you
Right.
poop or pee or whatever.
Right.
Like,
Right. Right.
just the fastest way to get that dense stuff out of your system, it
Mm-hmm.
cleans it out.
Awesome.
So the more
Awesome.
you work with it, the more she teaches you, and I say she is
Right.
it's a feminine plant.
Right.
The more the divine feminine through this plant teaches you what you've been doing to your consciousness, or your ancestors, or all the things you inherited,
Right.
the more you can elevate with your soul's reprogramming of your
Mm-hmm.
consciousness. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a fast path to radical change that's permanent. It doesn't go back. So you
Okay.
have this ceremony, you make
Yes.
the realization, whatever that realization is. It's not like addiction where you just you're just going back, you know.
Right. Right. I get what you're saying.
No, it's like healed.
Yes. Yes.
And then
Yes.
you move on to the next layer of thing that you need to look at.
Right. Okay. Now,
So
how would a person go about going to these ceremonies and having, because from what I understand is it is important to have a ceremony with a group of people, not try something like this
alone.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I've heard.
You don't want to go into your ego alone.
Yeah. So, how would a person go about doing that here in the States? Because I know that there
are places that are legalizing it.
Okay.
From what I understand, Berkeley is legalizing. The city of Berkeley, California, is legalizing ayahuasca. From what I understand, I don't know the status of that, but I know that was in the works, in the process.
Okay.
You're going to start seeing places legalizing it, just like marijuana has been legalized. You're going to find places that are legalizing it because it's a health.
Yes.
It's for mental health, actually, and spiritual health.
Yes.
So, and it's a much more expeditious path than going with, let's say I tried the Western complex and their ideas around how to heal. Mm-hmm. I took their pills. I did all that. It did not work for me.
Right. Yes. Oh, you mean Western? Are you talking about
Western medicine?
Oh my goodness.
It did not work for me. Everyone has to make their own choice.
Yeah.
But for me, it did not work for me.
Yes.
So, and I get it. I tried it for like 13 years. It did not work for me. So I did not start healing until I turned to spirit medicine. And then now I'm turning to earth medicine.
Okay.
So, if people aren't ready for ayahuasca, if that feels like, oh my gosh, that's too intense.
Right.
Then, you can work with stones and crystals and as allies. Those are a good place to start. They have a lot of wisdom. You can meditate with it, put it on your third eye.
Yes.
Get wisdom from it. They'll actually, because they're so dense, they actually can start working with your physical body to help create shift. So, you can get some good distance working with stone allies. So it's a good starting place for people who are a little bit worried about I don't know about this plant medicine thing.
Right. About some people want to just jump into this deep end.
I jumped in. I actually did not do any plant medicine for many years because I just thought, I had this concept that I was crazy and that if I did that, because of the pills and everything that the Western medical gives you all these pills for and you got to keep taking them. Otherwise you're going to go off the deep end. And there's this idea that they give a person, like it gave me anyway.
Yes.
And so that made me worried about a lot of things.
Right. Yes.
I was worried about all that.
Yes.
And it turns out, that for me, the path I walked was the path I walked. I still believe really strongly in energy medicine and clearing a lot of things out through personal mastery and stepping the steps. I don't think there's any fast track.
Exactly.
You can't skip the work.
Yes.
But if you're doing the work already and you're taking the steps and you're doing your spiritual path and you're practicing, then this is a healthy adjunct tool that helps speed it up a little bit and give you deeper. Past some egoic blocks. So it's just very helpful. And if you want to work that path, then you could certainly investigate. There's lots of places in South America, Peru, and the jungle is definitely a place where this happens.
Right.
And where you want to be guided by somebody experienced, a shaman, shamanic practitioner.
Yes.
And you also want to be mindful and careful of faux shamans and people that aren't. You want somebody that's really got good, deep, grounded spiritual practice, that's been doing their own practice and walking their talk for decades to guide you in the process. You don't really want somebody who's just woke up and decided that they can do that.
Okay, I got.
You know what I'm saying? It takes some mastery to lead somebody through something like this.
Yes, I agree. Wow.
Yeah.
Very, very good. And please share with our audience where they can find your book. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
So this is what my book looks like.
Okay.
It's got a rainbow eye because we are
I love that.
the rainbow eye.
Yes.
Caroline.
Yes, I love that.
The second wave.
Yes.
Yeah, you can get it on Amazon and it's available in print or in ebook version, online book version. And yeah, so it's on Amazon and it's doing really great there.
And your website?
My website is kerrihummingbird.com. That's KERRI hummingbird.com.
Okay. Well, this has been so amazing. I love, like I said, I get a high.
I'm still high right now.
Yes, I get a high whenever I do this show. I really do. I know that it's like my soul saying, yes, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. So it's a high. So I never tried ayahuasca, but I'm interested. But I also get a high just doing this show.
Just doing the show is like a high too. Like I feel like my soul comes channeling through, and it just feels really good
Yes,
to have
yes.
that feeling. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And I know that my son in spirit is the co-host. He already told me. He's
Mm,
very proud of the show. And he said, Mom, I'm your co-host. I'm with you every time you do a show. So I
that's
know he's right
gorgeous.
here. Yes.
Aw.
Yes. So this has been so wonderful. Thank you so much for being my guest. This is, like I said, I am just filled with just knowing, the knowing that we are, I truly believe. In 2020, I've been, since we entered the year 2020, I've been so excited because I feel we are going to see some amazing things this year, because it's just that point in our evolution where we're ready to go to the next step. I believe that.
We are.
Yes,
Yes, indeed.
yes, yes.
Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Well, thank you. You have such a beautiful smile. You know that.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm grinning from ear to ear. I can feel it just because I feel
Yes,
great right now. You know,
yes,
like you said, like the energy comes through and it just fills my whole body, and then I just feel really good,
exactly. Exactly.
dreamy and happy. And
Yeah, I get on that high flow and I'm high for the rest of the day. So this is great. Thank you so much. We are going to keep in touch. I will send you all the information to share this with your audience. And this is great. This is amazing. Thank you.
thank you, Caroline. Thank you,
Uh,
everybody.
okay. Bye bye for now.
Bye.